Good morning and welcome to Many Paths, Many Visions, brought to you by the Labyrinth Society and with your host, Christiana Brinton. Today, I have as my guest interdisciplinary artist, bodyworker, college instructor, and a concurrent workshop presenter at this year's Labyrinth Society Annual Gathering, Maia Scott. If you are joining us on this GoToMeeting session, please mute your sound by clicking on the microphone icon in the upper left of the GoToMeeting control panel that will appear on your computer screen once you log in. If you call in by phone, you will not see this. You can unmute yourselves and ask questions during the Q&A session at the end of the interview. Find the GoToMeeting invitation posted on the TLS Facebook page, the global group, and on the TLS website under Media. So I've entitled this episode Seeds, Symbols, and Seeing Possibilities with a capital S-E-E. My guest, Maia Scott, was one of the featured speakers at the 2015 TLS Gathering in Waycross, Indiana, and has been a concurrent workshop presenter many times over the past 5 years. Well, a few times. So greetings, Maia. Welcome to Many Paths, Many Visions, and thank you for joining me today. Oh, now all of a sudden I can't hear you, Maia. She was just on. She's really is here. Maia?
Good morning. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me. Can you hear me?
Okay, now I can hear you. Now I can hear you. Okay, so yeah, I'm so glad to have you finally on this podcast. So I'm going to ask some background questions first for listeners who don't know who you are, have never seen you at a gathering. So you use a guide dog. His name is Fiddler because you have limited sight in both eyes. Is this condition congenital, progressive, or is it the result of an accident? Would you mind telling people about that?
Certainly. I was born with limited vision. Apparently, up to about 3 months, I possibly couldn't have seen anything, and it got better until I was about 4. It's called optic nerve hypoplasia, which basically means that great information superhighway between your eyeball and your brain only has a couple lanes.
Okay. I'm just making sure that you finish because I'm not sure if you're going in and out. Okay. Okay. So that's very interesting. I have never heard of that before. So now I'm curious. So you're in your see, I think everybody's a baby if they're under the age of 40. So I don't really have any idea how old you are, although I've seen you around lots of times. So you've grown up this way. You've learned to function and very, very much function and thrive in your life. So I'm wondering, because of these technical sight restrictions, I'm curious, have you developed distinctions around the sense of sight and your other senses that allows you to function and create and flourish in your life? I mean, you're an artist, you're a body worker, you're a dancer. So I'm really curious if these acquiring, you must have acquired distinctions that affect how you relate to others too. So
I wish audio could pick up my stupid grin right now. That's such a fun question. I grew up with a mom who didn't believe in coloring books and who put me in, a mom and dad who put me in dance classes when I was about 4, so that I felt comfortable running around in circles with abandon. And it's a pretty visual world out there. We have other senses, but I think I gather for most people, you can get a lot more from far away from vision before you can hear someone or smell someone. So it's a pretty important sense, and I understand that as a very visual blind person. And I am very fortunate to have grown up in a time when video magnifiers were just invented. At the time I was starting to read. I have no objections to looking up close at things. Oh gosh, I I feel like I was raised in an environment where exploration was good, asking why was good, asking how was great. And I had family and friends who supported that. Also, just thinking about it, I'm 47, so I finally come out of babyhood, yay! And I just recently did my Master's of Fine Arts after a big hiatus of being in school. And it was in this process that I finally realized that everybody sees the world differently, not just me. All my life, people have asked me, well, what do you see? What do you see? Are you blind or aren't you? And of course, my answer is yes. And I, to answer that question, I see kind of like an impressionist painting. It's kind of funny. I was just in an art class with my mom in Yosemite, and she was with me. We were kind of looking at each other's work. And someone came up and said, oh, that piece is so freeing, and I need to learn how to work more impressionistically, blah, 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 and going off. And my mom just kind of laughs and goes, well, that's what she sees. And it just really made me realize that, it's true. And I'm very grateful that my work is affected by my visual / blindness / other parts of me, sensibilities. And yeah, back on this MFA thing, I realized that everybody sees differently, and what we see through is not just our eyes. We see through so many other parts of ourselves and our beings, our dog lover eyes, our mother, daughter, sister eyes, our labyrinth lover eyes, our somebody hurt me eyes, our I like ice cream eyes, or whatever those eyes are that we have nested in our heads to see the world through.
Sort of like you're living the whole 10 blind men and elephant thing, constantly, continually, the minute you wake up, 24/7. It's always a very much awareness of this different, that you're just seeing always differently than everyone else. And I think we forget that. I think as people who have regular sight or even wear glasses or whatever, we forget this is something that you are cognizant of 24/7. I mean, and that's something pretty, that perspective in and of itself is a very powerful one. It's a very distinctive one, I think.
Thank you. And I would like to honor that there are a lot of those lenses that are maybe unfamiliar to the masses. It could be the war veteran has to look at the world differently when they come out, as does somebody who's been through abuse, or somebody who's made billions of dollars. They're looking at the world through something very warped and different and unique. And I think it might just be the extremes. It's the envelope push, so to speak.
Well, let's talk about labyrinths. When did you first become aware of labyrinths, and why did they catch hold and hold your attention?
Oh, that's a fun story. I love this one. Sorry. Anyway, a facilitator came to one of my workplaces to do a labyrinth walk with our theater group, with their clients and such. And it was this beautiful canvas, and she had us take our shoes off if we could. And I was like, wow, we get to walk around on this giant piece of beautiful art. And the lights were low and the music was playing, and it was just gorgeous. It was pretty crowded on there. And I kept on stepping off to let people go by. And I kept on getting spit out the entrance. And the first time I was like, I just stepped somewhere. Second, third time, I started having a good pity party for myself. And just really wanted to stomp my foot like a 3-year-old and say, why me? Why do I always have to take longer than everyone else to do everything in my life? This is pissing me off. And I knew I could just walk to the middle and stand there, but that wasn't the point. So I walked in again and got to the middle, and yeah, it's nice. I got there. It was lovely having all the people swirling around me and being still, and made my way back out. And it wasn't until like a week later that I finally realized that I was given a gift. There was this big piece of art that I got to walk around on. I was so excited, and it was like choreographing people gently.
Maya, hold on for a second. You're breaking up a little bit. Can you?
Okay.
All right, now try.
I don't know why I'm breaking up.
There. Okay, there. That's good. Okay, keep going now.
Okay.
Great. You're
Beautiful.
walking this great piece of art, and then it was a gift.
Yeah. And I realized that I got to stay longer on this big piece of art than everyone else. And that was something that I was very grateful to be able to do. So it really brought to light the whole journey is the reward aspect of life, and made me appreciate the occasional slowness of my path and my journey to certain things. And it made the reward all the more special and important. And I also learned that I don't have to step out of the way for everybody, because, I'm not a waste of space, and I am present in it with everyone else, and we're all learning together. And that was a very powerful message. So I kind of decided that I think I have a bit more to learn from this walking in circles thing, and I should investigate it. And so I did, went to pilgrimage and facilitator training and got hooked.
Wow, those are what a gift to have those two messages given to you right off the bat. People sometimes take many, many, many walks on labyrinths before they figure those out or are gifted with those messages. So, yeah, I can imagine that was compelling. I can imagine. So you and Fiddler, you've become an exceedingly welcome fixture at Labyrinth Society gatherings, and I know that I'm disappointed when I don't see you both somewhere on campus that first day. I'm like, where's Maia? Where's Fiddler? So can you share some of the reasons that have you coming back and continuing to contribute?
Even though I get to go to the monthly walks at Grace, and there's a little community there that is home and my social life and such, there's nothing more enticing and powerful and fun than cloistering up with a bunch of people to totally geek out on everything Labyrinth. Mm-hmm. And there's so many visionaries and people that I admire, and just amazing ideas and everything in one little place, that I'm not someone who takes drugs or anything, but I think if I could associate it with that, it would be like crack or something. It's just so good. I have to have more.
Okay. That it is intense. They are intense 3-day events or 2.5-day events for sure.
Yeah, it's complete with the afterglow and the withdrawal symptoms. Crash.
or any addictive drug. Yes, I would say that's your. Oh dear, but in a really good way, because then you have, like you said, it took you a week to get the messages clear. Sometimes it takes a month and something after people leave to get those messages, but the love keeps on coming, right? It keeps on giving.
Oh, definitely. I'll pull something out from my folder and look at it and be like, it might even be completely irrelevant, but I'll just be like, oh, that's what I needed for my lesson plan, or that's the thought that solidifies this thing I've been working through. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't always have to be something that's labyrinth related to labyrinth related. It could be labyrinth related to telling my parents something. I don't know. It's just it does kind of like the Labyrinth Walk, the Gathering will continue this beautiful trickle effect of wisdom that as it becomes, the space becomes available in your head to put it somewhere, it finds home.
Well said. Love that. Love that image. So let's talk about your workshop presentation this year. You write in the online description that this will be a mini, quote, play shop, not workshop, play shop, to celebrate your labyrinth geekness. So I have to ask, what constitutes labyrinth geekness? And how do you identify a labyrinth geek, or does it just automatically come with the territory?
I think anyone who goes across the country to hang out with labyrinth people and talk about measurements and such, and numbers and different types of stones or rubber or Coke bottles, and how many it takes to create a 7-circuit design, has some inherent geek just embedded within oneself. And I take geek as living here in the Silicon Valley, I take geek as like the total compliment of the world, and I'm happy to own my own labyrinth geekness. I feel like geekness is sort of that pseudo inner genius place where you're pushing, poking, exploring, and making something new from something that already exists.
Yeah, and it can take the form of, measurements or color coordination, or, I just did finish a session with a podcast with Toby Evans, and hers was all about the chakras and coloring them different, and then having wind chimes on for each chakra, key to a different key, a tone. And so this is it's all an aspect of this labyrinth geekness, I think, that you're talking about.
It's all about alignment of things to make them flow a certain way.
So you also write that this is going to be about labyrinth seed inspired creativity prompts, or you're going to be using labyrinth seed inspired creativity prompts. So what do you mean by that? What are those exactly?
Fun. So for those who aren't maybe listening, who aren't necessarily familiar with drawing labyrinths from scratch, some of the more basic labyrinths, such as the classical labyrinth and the chakravyuha, can be, and even Baltic wheels can be pretty easily made from seed patterns. And I've found as an artist, there's a lot of fun things that can be done when starting with this little piece of constraint, and where you can go from there. And I also noticed about myself that because of what I've seen in the past and what I've walked, my sensibilities want the paths to be all parallel, and the walls or fields to be a certain thickness, and there to be a certain aesthetic to labyrinths. So my challenge for this workshop is, how can we take these seed patterns that we have used to create these beautiful things, these beautiful paths and patterns over the years, and just throw them up in the air, spin around in circles, land on our butt, and see what happens. And let's take that 7-circuit seed pattern that looks like a little quilt square and pull all the parts out so they're misaligned. Or let's see what happens if you make the top of that plus sign much taller than the rest of it. And let's see what happens if you add extra dots just to 2 spots. So it's all about yes and. The whole workshop is about thinking yes, and now what can we do?
Wonderful, wonderful. So let's get into this symbolism of seeds womb space, flowering, growth, abundance, divine feminine. And in your workshop, I think you use the word seeds as both a noun and a verb. So can you talk about this a bit, please?
There's something empowering about having a thing becoming a doing. A thing is something that we acknowledge or we have or we don't have, and a doing is something that we own. So I love the idea of seed as a verb, as the empowerment to create or to grow something. I don't know if there's anything more to say about that than to just be succinctly exploring the idea of owning that growth process. And even when we plant a garden, I'm a very good plant killer, except for succulents out here by the beach. And the idea of seeding something, I don't know that I've ever seeded a plant. I've bought them as they are and helped them grow. But as a creator, I do a lot of seeding myself, and the starting of something from a thought, an idea, an impulse, an inspiration. And everyone has that. Everyone has that seed, that space within where things grow. And what is the catalyst that will empower us and help us believe that we have the right to let it out into the world?
Yeah, and you have, as you're talking about the creativity prompts, and and yet, or and but, or and so, and you have these designs that the seed, that womb space, that center portion, is that symbolism is inherent in most labyrinth designs. Even the Chakravyuha with the spiral, you still have that center place that is the place of growth or possibility, or whatever you want to call it, flowering, or whatever you want to call it. So you have this, what you're talking about, seeding, and this process, along with the actual design, that aspects that are intrinsic to a labyrinth as compared to a maze. So.
Yes, and I'm having a total aha moment as we're speaking here, and this may be something that most people have known. Maybe it's I think just we're talking about the seed of the labyrinth. I just started thinking about the patterns and how they grow in many cases, except maybe the man in the maze where it's the center. That so many of the seed patterns live in the lower center of the pattern, and like, whoa. And that womb space for women, in a literal sense, are in the lower center. And just thinking about how this workshop is a chance to acknowledge other womb space. Maybe it's in the heart, the upper center left, or maybe it's in the right ear, or the left elbow, or your butt. There's so many places where seeds can live and come from. Thinking about dance class and movement exploration, it's like, lead with your nose, lead with your elbow, lead with your right hip.
Yeah.
So yeah, do that.
Yeah.
So fun.
Yeah. It's sort of where you place your energy, where you focus your energy, where you concentrate your energy. Because I know as a dancer, if you're very, very low, your energy and your is very low, and your knees are bent, and it's in your butt or in your sacrum, it's going to have a very different feel than if you're up in your upper body and you're sort of floating, or flying, that flying feeling. So, and the seeds that womb space, wherever that is, will create very different actions and processes out of that, depending on where it's located. Very interesting, Maya. Yeah.
Ballet on point versus Afro-Haitian. Yes.
Yes. There you go. That's a real good contrast comparison, for sure. Really, really diametrically opposed, but But they both do low stuff too. I mean, even if you're I mean, I have seen African Haitian dancers just like popping in
Fly.
the air. Yeah, like
Yes.
from almost on the ground, and they're up 5 feet in the air. I was like, how the heck do
Yes.
you do that? So
Yes.
so yeah, that's very interesting. So share. So can you share some of the steps in your process for of creating workshops and presentations? I know you do a lot, not only with TLS, but in your area. You mentioned, you have a labyrinth community that you're involved in, and you also, do workshops and presentations. So can you share some of the steps?
Oh, it usually starts with me thinking, what would I like to do? What would I like to learn? And what would I want to be, a part of when I go to a workshop? So, and also the theme has been a big part. Like if there's a certain theme, oftentimes that will trigger something. And the whole idea of, for example, this gathering coming up, the idea of, I feel horrible, I didn't write it down, the theme for this year. Do you know it?
Bountiful harvest.
Yeah.
Yeah, sowing seeds for the future, celebrating 20 years on the path.
Thank you. Yay. Okay. So that sparked the idea of seed patterns. It just was a literal think. And the past versus future made me think step two, oh, okay, so here's what I've known in the past, and here's a chance to inspire change, shift, revisioning for the future. And maybe not necessarily literally in the aspect of seed patterns, but it could prompt some other vector in this sense of things. So, and I'm a very big fan of the idea of multiple intelligences. And because I'm a very kinesthetic person, even though I can't see well, I'm a very visual person. I like to hear it because I can't necessarily see it very well. I love to do it and talk about it. And I think as adult learners and even as children, where all of us are not made to watch, be still and watch and listen. So I'm remembering, of course, this embedded little thing about say what you're going to say it, and say what you said, and do it in 3 different ways. So there's this whole threefold process of making a workshop, beginning, middle, end. This process of gift it to them in 3 different ways, and let them, I should say, explore it, because I'm learning in there as much as anyone else, which is part of my joy of being a teacher and instructor or facilitator, is the whole idea of not just having answers, but knowing what questions to ask. My favorite teachers are those.
Well, there's so much juice in what you just said, Maya. First of all, everybody listening, if you're contemplating doing a workshop for the Labyrinth Society, there is your structure in a nutshell. You just go back, listen to what Maya just said, and it really will be very helpful. I think it's a great structure to create out of. Here we're talking about womb space and seeds. Sometimes you have to have the structure. You don't just when you plant a seed, you make sure that the soil is ready and prepared properly, and you make sure there's mulch or there's food for the seed to grow in, and so there's a structure there for the most part in place that is part of the process of growth. And
love helps too.
And well, yes, I mean, you wouldn't be doing this if you didn't love. I mean, that I think that's a part of, if you're going to create that foundation and structure there, it must be out of love, because otherwise why do it in the first place, or why focus that intention in the first place, seems to me. Because if you're taking that much care to something, care is an aspect of love.
Yes.
You're caring for something, so you're loving this seed of an idea or an actual physical seed or whatever, and you're creating this foundation or this criteria out of which the seed will grow. And I just loved what you just shared, Maya, because to me it was it should be really helpful for people, especially if they've never done a workshop of any magnitude, or never this idea of contemplating speaking in front of a lot of people, or even 20 people or 15 people, is more than something that they've ever done before. So thank you so much for sharing that. But I also wanted to point out what you just said. There was a real juicy plum in there. You said, even though I can't see, I'm a very visual person. And I just love that because it harkened back to the title that I created for this, about seeing, which a capital SEE. Shamanically, this is you're talking about visualizing in your mind, using your third eye, using this inner sight to visualize what it is that you're creating, what and the process along the way. Is that what you were meaning?
Yes, and I do find that I remember very well, and I'm affected a lot by the literal act of seeing as well. And it's not necessarily what was intended by the person who put the thing out there to be seen. It's my own version of it, as it is for everybody. I'm not different in that just because my information superhighway there doesn't get all the information to my brain. There's other things that, of course, cause distortions in one's viewing of a thing. So yeah, it's very literal as well as figurative. And I think because I do lack some sight, my vision is very wild and crazy and colorful. And I'd also love to point out, just the inner punster in me has to bring this up. Just this idea of your third eye and seeing through different eyes. It's like, what if you put a capital I in that spot? And how does that affect the way you hear and see this process? What is your third eye? Is it your heart or your brain? Yeah, so just kind of play with that capital I and I.
Very, I love listening to people's perspectives. I think this is what gives me juice to do these podcasts. It's just so juicy because I just hear, it takes me out of my own limit, and I see how limited my sight is just because it's what I do every day, and I don't think about it. And so having these different perspectives is just lovely, and thank you so much. And I just wanted to point out how wonderful a writer you are, Maya. And in your speaking, you can sort of hear this writerly quality to even how you express yourself. And your posts on the Facebook Global Group and your personal Facebook page are so witty and so deeply aware, and show such clarity and passion and purpose. I'm going to point to that. You're welcome. You're welcome. I love reading your stuff. No matter what it is about, it's just so poignant, whatever you write about. And the last line in your workshop description, you say, take home your great ideas and epic fails to see the making of the next greatest thing in Labyrinth Land. And I read that, and I had to read it a few times, and I sort of got choked up because it feels like a call to be courageous and learn from your failures, Create something magnificent out of the lessons that you've learned, and above all, have a sense of humor while you do it. It's the way you say it and the way you write it. I mean, sorry, the way you write it is there's that little spark of humor in everything that you write from that perspective. It's almost like, don't take yourself so seriously. So I know that this was meant for prospective participants, but to me, it feels very personal. It was personal
Yes.
to me. So, is it?
It's personal to me. I've always wanted to succeed as I don't. I'm going to pull the blind card here and also acknowledge that many of us have some challenge or something that we feel society draws upon to hold us back, whether it's womanhood, whether it's having curly hair, wearing glasses, coming from a side of the train tracks, whatever that is, having a certain last name. There's so many things that do that to us. I'm going to speak from my own and go from there. And that is that I've often felt like I had to be perfect and do everything well, and maybe even 3 times better in order for people to believe that I could do it at all. And if I failed, then I failed society, I failed the blind population, I failed all of us, because they were right. And that hurts. It hurts so bad, and they put so much angst and sorrow and energy and worry and hurt into that. And I finally, at some point, I don't know when it was, realized everyone thinks I'm freaky deaky anyway, so what does it matter? I'm going to be myself. And maybe I'll be lucky enough to find people and places and situations where that fits and that works. And then I don't have to work so hard. And maybe I can that invites failure and discovery and welcomes exploration and play, and in that invite my own self to lead by example.
Well, it's just such a gift that you're giving here, because I know, I know people. It's one thing it's to be obvious in your diversity, in your challenges. Yes, you have a guide dog, so people all, oh well, she's blind, but there's so many of us out there, so many people whose challenges that they face are not obvious. They're
Right.
they're, and I don't want to call it anywhere else. And it's just how they live life is what they have to deal with on a daily basis is not obvious, and yet it is just as real to them, whether there's an emotional restriction, psychological, mental restriction, or
Yes.
whatever you have. It's not obvious, and yet people feel the same way. I mean, everybody feels that way, whether you've been abused as a kid, so the abuse isn't obvious from the outside, but it's bloody well there every time, every day of your life. So this is, thank you for sharing this.
And I'll speak from experience too, that I, over the years I've dealt with depression, and no, it's not necessarily based on, society thinks I can't do for me. It's chemicals, and that's all. It's, what it is. And I found that times of depression are more disabling than my vision impairment. And whether it's depression or just a lack of belief in one's own abilities, to me, that feels almost more, for me, more disabling than having a sensory quirk.
Got it. I love that. Sensory quirks. I'm going to use that from now on. Quirks. There's that wonderful humor coming in, and it's so important. I don't know how we can live in today's world without that. There isn't. It's not possible. I don't think it's possible. Really, literally, on any level, because things are just so chaotic right now on this planet. So, yeah. So I wanted to mention your wonderful, I had a picture, one of the pictures that I put up, letting people know about this uh, podcast was the picture of your labyrinth. I think it was down in Florida. That was, what was it? Was it pinwheels, or it was all colorful? It was the colorful things on
Oh, the sparkly cupcake pics.
Right, the sparkly cupcake. I have to ask, did you bring those with you when you came to the gathering that year, or did you just decide to do it?
Yeah. I saw those on a website, and it came in packs of 50, and being the kind of goofy labyrinth geek that I am, if I encounter anything in mass quantities, I can't help thinking, ooh, can I make a labyrinth of that? And they're very portable and they're fun. And that with some surveyor's tape was just the perfect packable labyrinth making tool of funness.
Oh my golly, that was I remember very clearly thinking, oh my golly, on top of everything else, she's here and she's making a labyrinth she's doing one of the the temporary labyrinths on the grounds. And it was so much fun to walk. It was so bright and cheery and such a hoot to walk. It's not.
It was kind of bittersweet too, though, because there are people who are like, I just want to skip through it barefoot. And I'm like, don't do that. You'll hurt your feet with those toothpicks.
Oh, I didn't even think, I don't even remember the toothpick part, but it was a few years ago. So, but what I'm pointing at is that your involvement is not just talking and writing, which is fabulous, but you just are so willing to take risks. You just get out there, you go, you're just always willing to create something, which is, and not being that type of person, I just am so appreciative of that. It's such a gift. It's such a gift to the Labyrinth Society. Are you planning on doing something this year for Labyrinths on the Ground?
Yes, actually, I found another fun labyrinth making tool. I found these little, these little alligator clips on sticks, and that would be great to stick into grass. And so I'm currently on a hunt, an inspiration quest for the thing to stick in those little alligator clips. So.
Well, yeah. I don't want to spoil the surprise, so don't tell us any more, because it's so much fun to see these labyrinths on the grounds pop up and see what forms they take and what they look like. So I'm so glad you're going to be doing that. That's something to really look forward to. Thank you, Maia. So I just wanted we have somebody else on the line here, and I just wanted to give them an opportunity. It's about a little past quarter of the hour. So if whoever is on with us, if you want to ask Maia a question or questions, you can unmute yourself and tell us your name and ask the question. So you have an opportunity right now. Sometimes people just come on the line and they just want to listen, and that's totally fine.
Yeah.
But if you want to ask a question, now's the time. Okay.
The answer is yes, and purple.
I like that color too. So does my granddaughter. Very popular color with the ladies. So whoever that is doesn't want to, that's fine. So I'm going to ask now. So you told me, so one of the things you said was that you're going to do this Labyrinths on the Ground, which is fabulous. You're going to do your workshop. So what is the next step for you? Where will your seeds take you next? Do you have any plans, labyrinth or otherwise? What's on the agenda or the horizon?
I don't know. It's kind of unexpected. I don't have any big. Well, actually, no. I take that back. I do. I'm going to go into the kind of accessibility and blindness end of that spectrum right now. I'm very excited today to be going to help with the dedication with Lars Howlett to Santa Rosa, to the Earlbaum Center for the Blind. They're an accessible labyrinth that can be walked with cane or guide dog or wheelchair. And I'm very delighted to be a part of the warming of that new space. And I'm also in the process of working on a tactile labyrinth collection and booklet called Finger Walks with the American Printing House for the Blind. I submitted a proposal a couple years ago, and they have a very slow, organic process of bringing products into fruition. And we just got done with the field testing. There's 16 patterns that span the lifespan of labyrinths, as well as cultures and circuits and shapes and stuff. And I'm very excited about that.
Okay. Now I have a million questions. So the designs, are these tactile, meaning dot braille tactile, or actually they like one's fuzzy, one's leathery, one's like that kind of thing, like the pads?
Yeah, we talked about that possibility, and I kind of encouraged us to go just the simple thermoform printing, which is basically they would make a mold of a pattern and lay this vinyl over it and heat it so that it takes the shape of that pattern. So they're flexible pages, much like you'd find in a book. However, they have these raised patterns, and I think a few of them they might be making a little bumpy or have changes in texture. For the most part, though, they're all this kind of vinyl paper. There's going to be color over it as well. It's black print, so it'll be very visual as well as very tactile. And the great thing about the vinyl is in different kinds of settings. So you have them in a busy classroom or a hospital setting or in a group home. You can wipe them down and sterilize them after many hands have worked on them.
So how will they, if they are totally completely blind, how will they know when they're on the path and when they're touching the wall or going across the wall into another path? How does that work?
It's raised for the most part.
The lines are raised?
Most of the images, the fields or walls are raised, so you're going between the lines. Some of them are more complicated, such as the Chartres labyrinth. We have my hand labyrinth is in there. I'm very excited, yay! Which is a modified Chakravyuha type labyrinth with fingers. And there's the exception, though. The Nazca line labyrinth bit is more of an Ariadne's thread type where you actually just follow the line itself. So there's a lot of opportunities to play with spatial awareness and up versus down. There's even one of the images from Mark Wallinger's London Tube exploration. That includes paths and walls that are thicker and thinner. And Lisa Gidlow Moriarty's Dancing Woman is in there. So you have the exploration of finding a human form in the process of walking the labyrinth. So there's lots of different plays with texture and pattern.
And okay, so one more question with this, and then I have another question. So will the directions for each design be in Braille, or will it just be like a picture book where you just go from one to the other? How will people know how to walk it?
There's going to be a guidebook. and I've been having a lot of fun working on that. And, it's been quite a fun challenge, learning things, finding things. I tried to access any information I got via the internet so that explorers of this collection can go back and learn more if they want, in whatever format, using whatever accessible equipment they choose to use. So the booklet will be included in Braille as well as print, and it will include kind of ideas and guidelines for walking labyrinths, as well as a basic history and resource page for each of the patterns, which will also include a little bit of kind of general information about the pattern and what you will find there.
Really wonderful. Oh, this is such a gift to the Labyrinth community and to the quirky sighted community. I'm going to keep calling it.
I'm hoping this really goes beyond the blindness community, because it's a chance to have 16 different finger labyrinths in one place.
Yeah, wonderful. Oh my golly, we'll have to put it in the labyrinth store for sure, on TLS for sure. Yeah, I'm going over my authority in that one, but I'm sure we will. The other thing I want to talk about, so accessibility. I got to ask this one last question. What makes a labyrinth accessible? What guidelines are you using, for instance, for today? And that's so great that you're going to be with Lars today. Please give him he's going to be on my podcast at the end of the month. So what makes a labyrinth accessible? What issues? What defines that?
That is such a fun and juicy question, because I feel like it's sort of different for everybody. Having some functional vision, I feel like most labyrinths are accessible for me in that I can walk them. However, I've been on vacations where I've looked on the locator and gone to find labyrinths, and even gotten lost for a couple hours to come across a cobbled labyrinth or something where I can't even see the path, which is very disappointing. And then I just have to back up and say, I'm going to be a witness and just be in this space and hold it. So accessibility is one of those things. I don't know that there are really set standards in labyrinth land as far as accessibility goes. I think this one at the Earl Baum Center is, in my eyes, because maybe I'm not seeing far enough, kind of a foremother, foreparent in figuring out what these guidelines are. They have something that's textured so that somebody with a cane can feel the edge of it. They have, because it's raised, they have it pretty wide so somebody in a wheelchair can navigate through it easily as well. And because of the raised edges, it's a Baltic wheel style type labyrinth that has a short way out. So somebody who may not have the desire or capacity to walk a long distance all the way through can navigate out or into the center very quickly and easily. And I think that in itself is very welcoming to all people. And I also think to myself, one of the things that really takes me out of my mind space when I do walk a labyrinth is having to concentrate on the path. And I don't think I will have to do that in this one unless I choose to not use my functional sight and trail the tactile edges, which will make me follow that narrow path in a different way. So my question is, as with many designers in this society today, is how can we make universal design that also honors the initial intention of the thing in the first place? Also, another question I have is, in a lot of situations, accessibility is having a tactile finger labyrinth that somebody who chooses not to walk or cannot walk the existing labyrinth can sit on the side and experience themselves. And I heard this great saying recently, which is accessibility is being invited to the party, inclusion is being asked to dance. So how do we take this labyrinth on the outside, that accessible labyrinth, and offer inclusion? Anyway, just questions. I think we're in this beautiful, not just thinking about it mode, but actually doing it and experimenting and playing. And thank you, Lars, and also Patricia Jefferson at the Earl Baum Center for taking this risk and visiting this beautiful space that I get to meet today.
I love that. Accessibility versus inclusion, and so poetic and so beautiful and so relevant. And I think it's something that the Labyrinth Society, I get choked up. I can't help it. Because I think this is something that the Labyrinth Society, it's a key point going forward. You know, we're in the board is in the midst of creating strategic initiatives, and this whole idea of accessibility versus inclusion, and we talk about inclusivity and diversity, and so how can we make sure that everyone can dance? Everyone can dance when they come to the gathering. Everyone can dance when we put up temporary labyrinths on the grounds, even, although that can be problematic to a certain degree. But yeah, so that is something that I am going to write down to put on the board meeting agenda and discuss that, because that is a very juicy topic of conversation. Thank you so much for bringing that up, Maia.
Thank you for sending it forward and seeding it.
Yeah.
Seeding. Yeah.
There we go. There we go. Absolutely. Well, you know, it's noon. I had just one other quick question. What is the labyrinth that you're going to be going to today? What is it made out of?
It is concrete. Okay. It's a concrete slab with bricks, and the bricks are laid so that the wall or field is about 4 inches high. I believe the path is 39 inches wide. Okay. It's a Baltic wheel that has a little circle at the entrance. And if you take the right path around the circle, you go directly into the center. And if you take the left path around the little circle near the entrance, you take the long way in. And where the path goes out on the short way, Patricia planned very strategically a peace pole. And so this peace pole, if someone who has no sight can find this peace pole, they will know the short way out.
Wonderful. Okay, that I needed to. That was a little bit of an key ingredient that I wanted people to understand as far as accessibility. So, concrete's very flat. It's very even. It's very clean. And then you have the bricks sort of sticking up a little bit where the delineating the paths. So those are the edges that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Very cool. All right. Well, Maia, it has been such a pleasure talking with you today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for letting me come on and play with words and labyrinths and seeds with you.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see you and see Fiddler. And I didn't even ask about Fiddler, and there's a whole bunch of other questions I would ask about that. About does he love labyrinths now because he's on them so much? I have to ask that. One more question.
Yeah, I think he might be kind of apathetic. It's funny. It's funny. Guide dogs are taught to walk in straight lines, and he's like, "Yeah, we go to school to walk in straight lines together." And then she takes me all these places where we go walk in circles. So I think he's very patient and kind of tolerant of the labyrinth thing. I also think, though, that he feels the energy of it, and I must throw out a quick flashback of the last gathering, not the last gathering, the Indiana at Waycross, out on the grass, calling in the directions and calling in the wind, and Fiddler out of harness, taking off into the middle of the circle and running donuts around the labyrinth.
I wasn't there for that. Darn it! I'm sorry, I missed that delightful interlude. But I see him all the time, just sitting in the center. On
Yeah.
so many different labyrinths in Florida and so many different places. He puts himself at also in Bainbridge when we went on the tour of Seattle. There he was in the center of the labyrinth, and so, yeah. So I just had to ask about that. And he does seem to be very patient, but I know that's part of the guide dog training, but, it's like, okay, this is my life, and this is what this person does. And she is my partner. So this is what we're doing. So
well, my first one would snore at the entrance. The second one would flip upside down somewhere on the path and block someone's way. And this guy just kind of relaxes in the middle. So they've all found their place.
Oh, that's great. Well, Maia, I'll let you go. I know you got to get going, go to your next labyrinth function. So thank you so much for joining me today, and many blessings on your path. So you've been listening to the Labyrinth Society's Many Paths, Many Visions on GoToMeeting and broadcast by Spreaker with your host, Christiana Brinton. Be sure to check the Labyrinth Society website media area, Facebook page, Facebook global group, and YouTube and Google Plus for a list of upcoming dates and guests. Also, if this podcast has piqued your interest in the Labyrinth Society and you'd like more information about membership, please go to www.labyrinthsociety.org/membership. Ciao, namaste, and may you find what you need on your path through life.